everyone, welcome back to our second vlog. And again, I'm joined by the ninja, Pravesh. And Pravesh, mate, what are we going to talk about today?
Hey, Richard. Yes, we're going to talk about our next extension in our enterprise technology space, which is going to be DevOps versus waterfall strategy.
DevOps, man.
Yes.
Everyone's favorite.
It is more than a buzzword these days. So a lot of organizations are either already in the process of adopting DevOps or already are on their path and big into the journey of using DevOps right now. So it's not something that if you are working in the IT industry or if you are looking to move into IT industry, this is something you just cannot ignore anymore. Especially if you're a bigger organization who is focused on their growth, especially in this day and age, in this climate, DevOps is a must. You cannot ignore it.
I agree. And I think it's even starting to trickle down a little bit from what I see as well. And then I think even some of our smaller customers where they've just got less IT resources available to them, I think DevOps is becoming more of a thing. And I guess that's what we're going to talk about a little bit, right? What is DevOps and how did we come to where we are now today?
Sure. Yeah. So before we look what DevOps is, let's look at what the thing that used to proceed before DevOps, which is waterfall methodology, which was used by a lot of enterprises out there. So the waterfall methodology was usually actually developed in 1970s, believe it or not. It's that old.
That's a good decade, mate.
It is.
And that's not that old, brother. I'll have you know. Just because you're from the 70s doesn't mean you're old.
It's not, but hey, we just came out of landing from the moon, and all the new things are happening, all that kind of cool stuff.
Yeah.
But hey, it was a cool generation for sure. Having said that, the reasoning behind waterfall strategy was to have that solid, thorough development process. And it actually starts with if you are going through that waterfall development process, the first thing you would do is likely go out, sit there with a big, large team, and you say, okay, what are my requirements? So you do your requirement gathering. You perform that work. Then based on the requirements, you do the analysis work. Okay, these are the important features that we need to have within this, and these are something we can cross out or nice to have. And these are absolutely waste of time, so let's not do them. So you classify them, you analyze them. And once you're happy with that, you basically go through your design phase. Okay, based on these features, let me design my product. And then if you just basically hand on those requirements to your developers. Okay, hey guys, go and develop something on those, which is a good thing. But the big disadvantage is some person was doing the analysis, another person was doing the requirement gathering, the third person is doing the design work, and the fourth person, the developer, is doing the development work. So there is more of a Chinese whisper where things can get lost in translation.
I guess
to happen.
Also, when you've got that many people involved and that amount of structure around that, it good, but also slow, like meetings. And I think another mindset that we had when we were in that space as well, a typical philosophy, particularly from an infrastructure point of view, when we're trying to deploy infrastructure on top of which these apps will be deployed, best of breed. I think anyone that was born in the 70s and has worked in IT at some point in their career will probably have been involved in an IT infrastructure project where the term best of breed was used. And that's what we used to deploy to then go and put these waterfall approaches on top of.
And you hit the nail on the head, because one of the biggest drawbacks of the waterfall methodology was you do the requirement gathering, you lock the features very early in the piece. So, and the whole development cycle, like you said, it could be long. So it could be 6, 12 months, 18 months long. And by the time it comes to the project to go live, number one, those features may not be required, or some of them may be outdated. So it's too late to add new features. You're already in that, like towards the end of that cycle. And very important point, like people forget, is your mobile phones. So you have all those applications, your operating system that gets updated on a daily basis, if not multiple times on a day. And imagine using the waterfall strategies to develop something like that. It will take you ever.
It's not possible. Yeah.
It's quite next to impossible, exactly. And in the last 10 or so years, that's why DevOps is taking hold in a lot of organizations, because everyone wants to be agile. Everyone wants to pick up those quick ways of deploying applications, producing product out there, releasing it out there. You do not have to wait for the final product, the very polished product out to be there on the public. You can release a product and then obviously work it and make it better.
So, DevOps for us is in a response to, I'll call them our developer cousins, right? Because we're both, I call us both infrastructure guys, right? My background is predominantly infrastructure. So it's about us as infrastructure guys now being able to keep up with what the dev guys need. And this is around trying to provide, and you mentioned it there, right? The agility and the pace to keep up with what a development team could do if they just go full public cloud, right? Because that public cloud scenario, one of the perceived benefits is that agility. Now, you can argue whether or not cloud is the right operating methodology for your business, and that's a whole separate vlog for us. But looking at it purely from a DevOps point of view, it's now around trying to make infrastructure as agile as the code that the guys are writing to run on top of it, right?
Exactly. You've put a very good point, because as infrastructure guys, we could be the slowest turning cog in the picture if we are not catching up on that, catching up to that DevOps methodology. Because if we don't do it, the developers are screaming and then down our throat saying, "Hey, give me that code, give me that infrastructure to run my code yesterday."
Yes.
And if we are still stuck in doing the thing the old way, it's completely not possible. And when you said about the public cloud stuff, yes, that provides that great way of using everything in an agile fashion. The problem is in a lot of industries where the regulators mandate you cannot use, or you have to have limited use of public cloud. What do you do in those scenarios? You have to have that infrastructure hosted within your own data center, whether it's in your public private cloud or with it just standard virtualization platform. You still have to use those DevOps methodologies to come up with those answers for those developers very, very quickly.
Yes, agreed. Right. The whole, whether it should be in public cloud or whether you're on-prem, whether that is your own private cloud or whatever. I mean, that's, to me, so much of that today seems like a religious debate. And, everyone's got all their own perceived ideas and their own outcomes and everything they're pushing. Clearly we both work for Dell EMC, so everyone's just going to go, "Oh, you guys are just, against public cloud." But like I said, we'll stay away from that religious debate today. But so then if we look back at that DevOps stuff and we focus, great, we've got this term DevOps, but for people watching this now today, like, what does that really mean for us? Like, where do you think the rubber, from an infrastructure point of view, where do you really think the rubber hits the road?
Sure. So the number one thing is with the DevOps, obviously it focuses more on the agile methodologies, and the idea behind that is you do not sort of plan things in one phase and draw the design in one phase and develop them in isolation. You don't do that. You actually adopt the continuous planning, continuous testing, continuous integration methodology. And that way, the advantage is, number one, you are flexible enough to provide that business requirement, answers to those challenging business requirements. What happened yesterday in the market, you can respond to it today. You don't have to wait a long period of time. And number two, which is a very important part, why in your waterfall methodology, where the teams were based into silos, in DevOps model, all those different people were sitting together in part of one team. So it's not one team that actually does the development work, passes on a CD or a floppy. If you look at the example of those 70s floppy disks. Sorry to take
Excellent.
that rubber in you.
Oh man, I do miss it. Yeah, they were cool. Yeah,
they were cool.
Having to punch the other side of a floppy disk to make it double-sided. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Or clicking that thing to lock it, make it write protected.
Oh yes.
You remember them?
Yep.
Yeah. So
anyway,
things we used to do.
Back to 2020.
Back to 2020. So the development used to be done by one team. The planning was done by one team, and the most important part was the production, the operation support of that product. That was done by a completely different team.
Yeah.
So day 2, day 3, when the issues all of a sudden arise, yes, 1 person, 2 person in the team got training on this new product, but that person is not there 24/7. That person may not have seen all the scenarios. So now the advantage is, because all of those people are co-developing that product, they're all across all these common issues that they have seen. They all across, they're trained according to, like, they organically grow as the product grows. So it's not like things are being developed in isolation. So you get a much better experience for the users, for the consumers as well.
Yeah. So, but also, advantage. I think if we look at that again from an infrastructure point of view, I don't want people thinking that DevOps is really just for those big orgs, because I know that you've just helped out a customer of ours, and really I think what you did for them with the example of the PowerShell script for setting up iDRAC IP addresses, that to me falls into that DevOps realm, and that was just I'll say simple. I know it wasn't that simple, mate. PowerShell script that enabled a customer to read an Excel spreadsheet that was set up, that they could set up, that had the service tag and the IP address that they wanted assigned to an iDRAC, and then leveraging, in this scenario, it was our open managed enterprise infrastructure and the API built into that. You were able to assign those IP addresses to those brand new servers as they arrived on site as bare metal servers. To me, that simple stuff, I call that DevOps as well. That's reducing risk for that customer, man, reducing the amount of just laborious task work that someone would traditionally have sort of had to do with setting those IP addresses up manually. So you get rid of the risk, you do it faster, and it's completely repeatable. That PowerShell script is now there and available for them. And the next time they buy a chunk of servers, all they do is update the spreadsheet with the new service tags and the new IP addresses, and anyone in that team can now go and repeat that process. So exactly. I think even something as simple as that, I think, sort of falls into that generic term of DevOps.
Yep. And exactly, like you just absolutely spot on when you said that. So the advantage was the brand new servers get delivered to the customer site. It could be their own data center or a remote site that they operate in. The development, the engineer, the operations engineer, he does not have to worry about, before provisioning the server, that is it having all the right settings as per the organization standards. It does have all the hyper-threading enabled, all the RAID settings applied, iDRAC configuration, SNMP credentials provided, all that kind of stuff. That was all done automatically by one central script. And the advantage of that was that script was sitting in the Bitbucket/GitHub repository.
Yeah, cool.
So they do not have to, like, once you maintain it, it automatically gets updated. Now your rest of the team knows it's in a central repository. They do not have to go to that file share. Oh, hey, John, just send me that file in an email. None of that happening.
Yeah.
So that's how the advantage of having a DevOps methodology actually works out in the infrastructure space.
Yeah, that's awesome. Hey, so you've just reminded me of something as well. And I'd like to see if we can get some comments from people. So talking about BIOS settings, I actually just recently delivered a seminar for a bunch of our channel partners on sort of deep dive into BIOS settings on Power servers. So you just reminded me, if anyone watching this is interested in that, or in that kind of content, then let us know in the comments, and I might pull together a vlog delivering that that BIOS deep dive. Yes, carry on, bro.
How about we just do it?
Thought of that.
How about we just do it anytime over the next coming weeks?
I might just do it. Even if no one asks for it, I'm just going to do it.
Just do it. I reckon let's do it. Yeah. It will be a cool one to have. Yes.
Yeah. So now we've got, you know, in this scenario, right, let's sort of play this out a little bit more. You know, we've got our GitHub repository. We've got some useful, I'll just say, scripts sitting up there that enable us to do stuff. So again, with that rubber hitting the road thing, we sort of talked about, and I've chucked Open Managed Enterprise out there. I think we also have those capabilities within the IDRAC, the out of band management on Power Edge servers. If we sort of look at the broader portfolio as well, so, you know, we've got other products out there that I think are eminently suitable for this kind of environment, right?
Yep. So, Richard, one good point that you touched up with DevOps methodology is from the infrastructure point of view, a lot of customers are moving towards using the traditional operating system model, you know, 3-tier architecture to your Kubernetes containers kind of model, but they're also moving towards cloud within their own data center using that HCI model, whether it's the Azure Stack HCI, or if you are a VMware customer using something like a VxRail that Dell EMC provides.
Yes. Look, I mean, HCI is just massive in the industry at the moment. I think
exactly.
Yeah.
And it's very popular. Everyone wants their hands on it at the moment.
Yeah.
The question remains is how can, if you are an organization aspiring to be in a having a DevOps methodology already if you already have one in your environment or looking to move it within your space, how can you take advantage of DevOps along with your HCI model?
Look, and I guess the cool thing about most of the HCI products, particularly the solutions that I guess we as Dell EMC have to bring to market there, is that they all effectively have a good API interface, which is effectively sort of the easiest way to deal with that stuff. And so I really don't care what we're talking about there on that HCI stack, whether it's, you know, our Rails solution or a vSAN ready node, or you mentioned Azure Stack, which for us now, you know, our new AX appliances, or if you're a Nutanix guy and you're doing that on Dell XC Core, even if you're running PowerFlex, just trying to remember the name of our rebranded our product there, you know, what people might know traditionally is Scale.io, you know, these product portfolios all bring to bear, I'll just say, an API way of dealing with them and interacting with that infrastructure in those environments and delivering that, again, that DevOps approach to managing that infrastructure. Even on some of them, you know, now we're talking about including the network in there as well. So traditionally, that HCI stuff has traditionally been more about, you know, compute and storage, and the switching and the network has sort of been this little thing off on the side. But now even more, now we start to see that come into play a lot.
Exactly. And the good thing is, it's because it's using all the APIs, it's sort of, once you developed it, most of those APIs are reusable from one model to another. So if today you're using a VxRail, and tomorrow you have another project which requires Azure Stack, you can kind of, I wouldn't say everything will be translatable, but most of the code you can reuse from one to the other. You do not have to go and rewrite the whole thing from scratch.
Yeah, look, even if the code itself isn't reusable, the concepts are. So
Absolutely.
once you understand those concepts, then I think you're okay. And then, okay, you might have written code. You might be right from a DevOps point of view. You could be right. I'll call you hardcore if you're writing your own Python code to do stuff. You might be more of a
like myself,
an Ansible player, or writing PowerShell scripts, But you might be more Ansible playbooks, or maybe you're using Salt, or one of the other sort of packages, I'll call them, for delivering those DevOps type things. I think a lot of the concepts across them are highly transferable. So again, I don't think it really matters. You know, is your stack or you're a VMware guy?
And dare I say, because I started my career in IT industry as one of the guys who would actually go in with a USB stick or a keyboard mouse and configure a server and then move on to the next, to all the way of using a script, like you said. Once you have the taste of that API model, once you have used it and see the goodness of it, there is no going back. It
100%.
is that good.
Yeah, agreed. Like I again, like you, I remember actually when I used to have to put floppy disks in a server to boot them, and you boot off those initial 3 floppy. Even if you had the CD to get NT installed, you still had to. I'm talking about still booting from a floppy to get a driver loaded for. And even with the amount of scripting we could do then, really batch files to sort of automate some of that stuff compared to, again, I'm going to pivot back to the iDRAC one that you just did, because I think it was really sweet. I really particularly like how it was as simple as, okay, Mr. Customer, you don't need to be the code junkie to make this work. We've written this nice bit of code here for you, and cool, here you go.
Yep.
Do you know how to use Excel? I'm like,
exactly.
Yes. Can you type an IP address in a cell? Yes. Congratulations. We've automated this whole thing for you. And that, to me, boy, that is a winner.
Absolutely. And the advantage was in those scenarios was I leveraged off our own GitHub repository. So Dell EMC's public GitHub repositories examples within that special script. So it wasn't something I created from the scratch. I was leveraging off something which is already available for free for all of our customers out there.
Cool.
So that's the advantage.
What we can do, if you're watching this video and you're laughing at us on YouTube, then we'll put the link for that beneath. If you're a podcast type person and you just love the sound of our voices, off the top of your head, Pravesh, do you know how do you find that GitHub? Google? Yes, it's Dell EMC GitHub, or do you know Google the URL?
Well, I know all 3, but I'll give it a better example. Why don't you go to Richard and myself's blog? So strategicalit.blog or it-ninja.com.au, and we'll put the link for you.
You're so good. How good is that? I hadn't even thought about that. Brilliant idea. Yes, go to our blog, everyone. Awesome.
Who uses Google if you have our blog?
Google's so yesterday, man. Yeah. Excellent. Cool. Well, mate, was there anything else that you wanted to cover off on DevOps? I
think we touched a lot of good points in DevOps, and I think this is not something that people are dabbling with these days. You have to look into DevOps if you are working in IT. DevOps is a must. You cannot look past it.
Yeah.
So rather than resisting it, I would suggest embrace it, and you would set yourself for future. Absolutely.
Agreed. Totally. If you don't know what Ansible or Salt or something, Chef, Puppet, if they're all weird names to you and you think I'm speaking gibberish, then man, learn one of those real fast. Or if you come from a dev background and now you're an infrastructure guy, then I think you're in a good spot, and there are a lot of APIs available. There's a lot of information already out there in GitHubs. And if you're already that way inclined, then get Postman and start mucking around and see what you can do. Actually, that is something I'm definitely going to do. We will do a video showing API calls on an MX platform, enabling and disabling VLANs. There we go. Because that's tedious exercise. So we're going to do a video on that. It's something else we're going to do. So now we've got videos on deep dive on BIOS and scripting VLAN enablement on MX. Hey, now we have to do it, mate.
Done. Let's do it. Once we say it on here, we have to do it. There's no running out of it.
Absolutely. There's no turning back. Hey, cool. Well, I think that's probably enough banter for the day. Thanks again, mate. Been a pleasure as always catching up and having a chat with you. And
likewise, mate.
We'll do it again in another fortnight, a couple of weeks' time.
Absolutely, we will. And thank you, everyone, for watching this podcast of ours.
Or
we
listening.
hope to see you, or listening to it. Yes.
Yeah.
We hope you will join us again in a fortnight's time. And if you do like us, please leave a comment and tell us what you like or you don't like. What can we do to improve these podcasts in the future? Yep. What topics you would like to see that we should include in our future videos.
And wherever you're watching or listening, hit subscribe and let us know.
And share the word around. Let other people know that these are two tech junkies talking about all the techie stuff. Spread the word around.
Tech junkies. Yes. I bet you there's a few other terms people use for us. But
let's not use them here.
No, let's not. We'll get booted off YouTube. Awesome. Okay, mate.
Lovely.
Catch you later.
Thank you, Richard. See you later.